Welcome to Strong Principles. I'm Rob Delacruz.
I'm Pete Miller.
I'm Larry Medina.
And I'm Wendy Shafransky. And today's topic is actually a statement that we get quite often when someone joins the gym and they come from more in a high intensity background. So boot camps, CrossFit, that sort of thing. And now that I'm thinking about it, it tends to be a lot of women. And they come into our program and there's a lot of rest between sets. It's not as intense. And the statement is, I don't feel like I'm doing enough.
Yeah, it's definitely the women, men, and it's like a certain kind of, like that culture was built on no rest days and everything. And now, as time's gone on, we figured like better approaches. But yeah, we quite often hear that I'm not doing enough because it's less than what they were doing at whatever facility they were at before.
Right.
And that's also just a culture thing. More is better. We always want more of everything.
Yep.
More strength, more power, more food, more everything. And we tend to bring that to us when we come to the gym. We want more intensity.
And sometimes that works on like, the more you work, the more money you can make sometimes. And like in sports, the more you practice, the better you get at the skill of the sport.
But you're referencing skills and not necessarily like other types of training. But really, it's a mental thing more than anything. And a lot of times people come to us and they haven't hit their goal, their goal weight, their goal physique, whatever their goals may be. And so they just naturally say, I have to add more, I have to add more, I have to add more. But there's, some very scientific and proven concepts like the law of diminished returns that, it's a lot less than you think you need to build and then even less than that to maintain. I mean,
I think the biggest thing first is like more is not better. So that's the first approach. Quite often, less becomes better because when you do less, it gives your body the ability to recover. And so that the actual work you're doing, you can actually receive in an adaptation.
So with that being said, when you have somebody that comes to your gym that wants more, how hard is it to change their mindset?
Rob kind of takes them to a whiteboard and draws some diagrams of how, when you add more and, kind of a curve and what it actually does to you. But really, it's education. I mean, one of our values of our gym is education. That's why we have this podcast. That's why we send out emails that educate our members. All of those are based on conversations that we have. So it's education, and then they just have to trust us.
Yeah, the other question I would have too is like, so what is it that they're saying that they feel? Is it just mainly like goal weight? Is it soreness? Is it like I don't feel fatigued enough? Or what are the symptoms that you're seeing folks coming in saying like
all the above?
Yeah.
All the above.
I think in the fitness world, soreness is something that people think is doing them a service and they want to achieve that. Volume, all that stuff that comes into play. And they were just basically fed a line of crap.
Yeah, I'll preface this, right? So I've personally been going to Dr. Hockey's, and this, that, the other. And, I know people that are going there now and they weren't before. And they're only working out like twice a week, right? So there's like a 3-month check-in that we do. And this other person's only been working out twice a week. That's it. And when they do the body scan, they're like, "Oh, I'm seeing big improvement here in your muscle." So to me, like that was like an eye opener when I got the word back that hey, working out 2 days a week, they're seeing like a big improvement already on the body scan.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. So this percentage might be off. 1 day a week. Hand you, and I'm talking about strength training, about 50% of what you can get. You go to 2 days a week, you're getting like 75-ish, 80. So that third day is only giving you such a small percent. So you get the majority out of what you can get from strength training as long as it's properly programmed and the volume's proper. So it's like smarter. You get the majority of almost up to about 80% just off of 2. And then the third one comes in. The problem is people start seeing and get approached and they see like really high-level athletes or people that are on performance enhancers, and they have a lot bigger of approaches as far as volume and days. That's not the norm.
Right, and just 2 days of kind of aimlessly walking around Planet Fitness and touching some machines is not what we're talking about for those 2 days. It's, working with a trainer or a program that's well planned out and being very intentional, doing your warm-up sets, struggling a little bit as long as your movement quality is there. That's what's sending that signal. And then very importantly, rest between sets. And if you're only working out twice a week, you're recovering. So that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, I like to preface this. Listen, you can do a lot. You can twice a day train. You could, if the programming is laid out properly and your recovery is dialed in, like a pro athlete. But nobody has that much time and that many resources to be able to massage, red bed, nutrition, your sleep, like just a number of things what it takes to be able to do that. And most of the time, the category of person is completely different than just our everyday people that are just going for general fitness.
Yeah, Rob, do you want to kind of just in a nutshell, when someone does come to you and you take them over to the whiteboard and explain the whole...
Yeah, so before I even get into anything, I ask them, like, what's their goals? And it usually doesn't align up with how they want to do things. Because like an appropriate dose of exercise is the right dose. And so that's a lot less than people think. And then what I get into concepts of interference effect or super conversation. And like what those do is explain on when you do too much, you receive less from every workout, percentage-wise. So you can actually be working out way more, but getting so much less from each workout. And then what happens when you do that, for a little while you can get better, but over a long term, it starts to have some diminished returns, and then there's real bad wear and tear, so it can become detrimental to you later on.
Right, especially when you're, kind of in your 40s and above, testosterone, even you're at the gym all the time, but testosterone can start to dip. You're not sleeping as well. Women's hormones can get all jacked up. And we've even seen women like, all right, you never take a rest day. Let's do 4 days a week. And that's really hard mentally for somebody to do. But if they trust the process, a lot of their biomarkers improve, as well as their body composition and, their cortisol reduces, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's just some programs that a lot of people have been like sold like a misinformed bag. And all your franchise models, CrossFit, all of them. It's a lot less as long as it's properly programmed and you're progressing it correctly. And in general, what you really need is 2 to 3 days of strength training, 1 to 2 days of like 2 different type of smart conditioning in the end.
I can speak to that. For when I first started CrossFit, I wanted to be good at everything. So one of my workouts would start off with like a lift and then a skill, and then I'd do a MetCon. And over the course of so many days, I would just go backwards because I'm trying to cram everything into one day because more is better, right? The more I get skill-wise, the more I get MetCon, the more intensity I get, the better I'll get. And then over the course of time, I just got hurt. I got worse. I got fatter because my hormones went down. And actually more became more terrible for me, and I went completely backwards.
Yeah.
But my mindset was, I have to cram everything in because more is better.
Did your strength go down because of the signals you're sending to your body?
I wasn't recovering. I was overworking. I was overreaching. I was not sleeping. I just crashed. I failed to thrive. Yeah. And I went backwards.
Like appropriate strength training and appropriate conditioning looks a lot different than what people think. Rest, lower reps than they think, longer rest periods, pacing properly, like not going all out all the time. It's a lot less of an intensity and effort than people realize, but the intent has to be there. And I don't think effort's not the right word because you want good effort, but the intensity is not as high as people like should be doing all the time.
Yeah, and I think also a lot of these people, they did see results at the beginning of these intense programs because maybe they weren't doing anything or, they weren't consistent, and then all of a sudden they got somewhere, so they just say, to get further, I need to add more, and then, it's human nature to think that way.
And I call those the newbie gains. Like when I first got into it, I got good because I was terrible at it, and then I got better, but then I added more because I thought I was getting better because of it, and then I just went backwards because it was just the newbie gains.
It's kind of like when the kipping pull-up, right? Mm-hmm. I only got so good, and then I couldn't get past a certain plateau. Looking back, I should have went back to strict pull-ups.
Yes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's the more is not better. It's more of like being intentional.
Yeah. Yeah. So like what Wendy said, like what I do is when I start talking to people, I ask them what their goal is, and then we make a needs to analysis. What do you need to go to your goal in life? And like a lot of times those don't match up, and their approach is not going to help them get to their goal. Well, this approach is wrong. You're doing too much to actually get stronger or to require the skills that you're trying to do, whatever movement or whatever the look you're trying to achieve. And so then you start like educating them on that, like, hey, these don't match up. And it's just educating them. That's the biggest thing. And knowledge, because the industry in general is probably 80% of misinformation.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
100%.
when people say, well, when I first started and I was doing this, I was in better shape and now I'm not. Well, a lot of times you need to look at other factors other than the workout, and they're not being honest with themselves about their sleep, their nutrition, that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, so speaking on that, CrossFit did a really good job with this. And I run into this with like those athletes. You can beat yourself into good shape and looking good, but the sustainability of that. So the key is to think about how to get to that position or close to it without the wear and tear. That's where it goes wrong because it's not sustainable. Anybody can go through a 6-week, 12-week, whatever it is, and run yourself into the ground and get somewhere until you finally break.
So with that being said, when you sit with somebody, especially for me, when I want a goal, I want it now. So I think more is better because I'm going to get to my goal faster.
Yes.
Do you have to explain to them, like, look, we're not trying to get this accomplished in 6 weeks. We're looking at a year or 2 years down the future.
Correct. A lot. Yes. You want the slower burn is where like the magic kind of really happens. You can absolutely go hard and possibly get kind of close, but the likelihood of you're going to be wrecked after.
Sustainability.
Yes. That's where it goes wrong.
Yeah, I mean, even when you look at like overnight successes of people that have made millions, it was not overnight. Nothing's overnight, but we want it like
And
that.
they probably
you know?
failed multiple
So,
times
yeah,
before they had that
exactly.
one success.
Yeah, so-
Yeah, even Joe Rogan, right? Like he was unknown for a long time until one day it just pops, right? But it's years of work.
Yep.
Right.
Same thing.
It's the same concept. So yeah, I mean, just in a nutshell, more doesn't always mean better, and look at sustainability and where you want to be 10, 20 years down the road and not today.
That's it.
All right. Thanks for listening.
The strong principles.